Chapter 1. The Road Trip. The Australian sun blazed overhead as Emily Clark, Jessica Moore, and David Reynolds drove down the seemingly endless highway in their old, battered car. The vast outback stretched on either side, a landscape of red earth and sparse vegetation that seemed to go on forever. They had been planning this road trip for months, eager to visit the renowned Wolf Creek crater, a natural wonder created by a meteorite impact. Emily, the adventurous and enthusiastic geologist of the group, had spearheaded the trip's organization. Her best friend since childhood, Jessica, was a quiet but equally eager participant. She worked as a nurse and had taken a much-needed break from her hectic job to join the adventure. David, the group's easygoing joker and aspiring writer, had joined them later, hoping the journey would spark inspiration for his next story. Excitement filled the car as they approached the national park. They were finally going to see the crater, a sight none of them had experienced before. Singing along to the radio, sharing snacks, and discussing their plans for the rest of the trip, they felt the long journey was worth the promise of adventure. Chapter 2. The Crater. The crater exceeded their expectations, its vastness breathtaking and awe-inspiring. Standing at its edge, they marveled at the powerful forces of nature that had shaped it. The immense void made them feel small and insignificant in the grand scheme of things. They spent hours exploring, taking photos, and soaking in the solitude of the outback. Emily eagerly explained the geological significance of the crater, her passion evident in every word. As the sun began to set, they returned to their car, ready to move on to their next destination. But something was wrong. The car wouldn't start. Emily frowned as she turned the key repeatedly to no avail. The realization of their predicament dawned on them. They were stranded in the middle of nowhere as night quickly approached. Their watches had stopped working, their phones had no signal, and the vast emptiness around them offered little hope for a quick rescue. David, trying to stay optimistic, suggested they camp out for the night and figure things out in the morning. Jessica, though nervous, agreed. Emily, the most practical of the group, began formulating a plan. Chapter 3. A Friendly Stranger. Just as panic began to set in, headlights appeared on the horizon. A truck approached, and they eagerly waved it down. The driver, a rugged man with a wide-brimmed hat and a friendly grin, introduced himself as Jack Taylor. "Looks like you folks could use a hand," Jack said in a thick Australian accent. He offered to tow their car back to his camp where he could take a look at it. With no other options, the trio gratefully accepted. Jack's camp was a ramshackle collection of buildings and vehicles, far from any main road. The friends chatted with Jack as he worked on their car, sharing stories and laughs. Jack seemed like a good-natured, helpful local, and they began to relax. He regaled them with tales of the outback, his hunting exploits, and the area's history. Emily, always curious, peppered him with questions, which Jack seemed to enjoy answering. Chapter 4. The Nightmare Begins. Their sense of ease was short-lived. Jack offered them drinks, and soon after, Emily felt her eyelids grow heavy. The world blurred, and she slumped to the ground. When she awoke, she found herself in a dark shed, bound and gagged. Panic surged through her as she struggled against the ropes. She managed to free herself and slipped out of the shed, her heart pounding. She had to find Jessica and David. Moving quietly through the camp, she heard muffled cries from another building. Peeking inside, she saw Jessica tied to a chair, with Jack standing over her, a sadistic grin on his face. Emily burst in, attacking Jack with a piece of metal she found. In the chaos, she freed Jessica, and they fled into the night. They stumbled upon one of Jack's cars and managed to start it, driving away as fast as they could. But Jack was not far behind. Chapter 5. Desperate Escape. The chase through the dark outback was a blur of fear and adrenaline. Jack's truck loomed in the rearview mirror, gaining on them. Emily swerved and dodged, but Jack was relentless. A gunshot rang out, and the car skidded off the road, crashing into a ditch. Emily was injured, but Jessica pulled her from the wreckage. They ran, hoping to find help or a place to hide. The outback offered little refuge, and Jack soon caught up with them. He captured Jessica, dragging her back to his camp as Emily watched helplessly from her hiding spot.